listening. Before the New York City Stonewall riots in 1969, this lesser-known riot happened 3 years earlier. Roberta Gonzales-Gregg talks with two people at its 50-year commemoration. This contemporary gay novel inspired the creation of LGBT running clubs throughout the world, and one of these clubs will celebrate its upcoming 25-year anniversary. Roberta talks with this Emmy Award-winning filmmaker on this September 2016 edition of Outlook Video. And welcome to Outlook Video, your nationally recognized, award-winning news magazine for the LGBT community. I'm Alice Heimsoth.
And I'm Raymond Donald Hong. This month's program is about anniversaries and one particular upcoming marriage. Everybody here at Outlook extends our congratulations to Alice Heimsoth here and Christine Conkle before their wedding.
Raymond, I'm touched. And I'm so jazzed because I've been working with same-sex marriage since the mid-'80s, and I'm just so elated that we can legally get married, and I got to see it in my lifetime, and we get to enjoy the benefits.
Well, single lady's going to put a ring on it, huh?
You got it, and my fiance, Christine, I love you.
Congratulations, Christine. We all send our best wishes. Back to anniversaries, it's been exactly 50 years since the riot at Compton's Cafeteria in San Francisco when an unethical but unlawful arrest happened. The uprising of August 1966 occurred after drag queens, transgender women, and to a lesser degree LGBT community of the Tenderloin district had been targeted, abused, and arrested for years by San Francisco police for violating the city's anti-cross-dressing ordinance as well as for the sex work they were often forced to do.
The riot erupted after one of the screaming queens was being hauled away from the cafeteria. She emptied her steaming cup of coffee in the police officer's face, and all hell broke loose. Chairs, dishes, and sugar shakers were thrown, and the restaurant's windows were smashed. Outside, rioters broke the windows of a squad car and lit the newsstand on fire. This all happened 3 years before the more famous 1969 Stonewall riots in New York City.
Roberta Gonzales-Gregg visited the Tenderloin Museum in San Francisco to talk with Program Manager Katie Conroy on the Compton's Cafeteria Riot 50-year commemoration.
Roberta also talks with Robert Pottel, a longtime resident of the Tenderloin, and his remembrance of the Compton's Cafeteria Riot.
This year also marks the 25th anniversary of Bayland's Frontrunners, a running and walking club for Bay Area Peninsula residents. Tom Japp, Johnny Kelly, Brian Forney, and Jack Thompson will be in the studio to talk with Jay Raley about their upcoming 25-year anniversary.
In our final segment, we return back to the Tenderloin with Roberta, where she talks with Susan Stryker, director of the Institute for LGBT Studies and associate professor of gender and women's studies at the University of Arizona in Tucson.
She won a Lambda Literary Award for the anthology The Transgender Studies Reader and an Emmy Award for the documentary Screaming Queens, The Riot at Compton's Cafeteria.
On July 1st this year, the Department of Defense lifted the ban on transgender Americans to serve openly. Lifting the ban will include issuing medical guidance to doctors who will begin providing all medically necessary transition-related care to trans people serving.
As another step toward equality, the Department of the Navy has announced that one of the 5 new Navy oilers being built in San Diego will be named after gay rights icon Harvey Milk. In his announcement, Secretary of the Navy Ray Mabus said, "I named ships for people and places that represent our highest values, the things we cherish the most."
That's great.
That's the news from the military. Let's begin with Roberta Gonzales-Gregg at the Tenderloin Museum in San Francisco.
50 years ago, drag queens, hustlers, and trans women rioted at the all-night Compton Cafeteria Diner in the San Francisco Tenderloin district after multiple police harassments came once too often. The event, dubbed the Compton's Cafeteria Riot, not nearly as well known as New York City's Stonewall Inn 3 years later, but still stands as an important piece of queer history. Outlook Video is in San Francisco with the Tenderloin History Museum commemorating this event. We're here with Katie Conroy, who's the program director of the Tenderloin Museum. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks.
And this is really a fantastic celebration. Tell us a little bit about this event.
So this is the 50th anniversary of the Compton's Cafeteria Riot, which was a historic moment in the GLBT movement. 4 years before Stonewall, it's the first militant uprising from the queer community to police harassment in the United States. And we're really proud of that history in the Tenderloin. The Tenderloin's been a historically very permissible area, and it was deemed the gay ghetto. It was the only place where gay people were really allowed to be themselves. And that is the reason why the movement started in the Tenderloin, spread to the rest of the city, and eventually to the rest of the country. So,
now, as a program director, were you one of the people who recognized this event and brought it to the forefront?
yeah, actually the first event we ever did at the Tenderloin Museum was a panel with the Screaming Queens, and Susan and Felicia were involved in that. So it's always been a really important part of the museum, and we're just really excited to bring it to even more people's attention in the 50th anniversary.
Now, Susan, you're speaking of Susan Stryker, the director of that particular movie, The Screaming Queens, was it?
Yeah, that's correct. So she really dug into the history and really saved it from obscurity. And it was all but lost historical incident. And because of the research that she did and the film that she made, it's now become a cornerstone to the gay rights movement. President Obama recently mentioned it in his speech, along in the same sentence as Stonewall recently.
Wow, that's really excellent.
Yeah.
What's so nice, this is my particular first visit here. This museum, you said, is now a year old?
Yeah, so we had our first anniversary party on July 16th. We were open for free with free hourly programming between 1 and 9. We think what's made our first year so strong is the partnerships we've made with different museums and organizations and artists and neighbors. So our programming couldn't just be one thing. So we had 8 different programs throughout the course of the day. The Asian Art Museum was here, the California Historical Society, drag queens from Aunt Charlie's that we know from a screening we did of Beautiful by Night by James Hoskin. We showed that here to a sold-out crowd, and also at the Roxy to a sold-out crowd, and we had the drag queens that were featured in that film perform, so we invited them back as well.
So you're very inclusive with the LGBT community, but also there's so much history here about the Tenderloin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the major ideas of the museum is a lot of really culturally important things happen in the Tenderloin that people don't know about. So it's kind of giving the neighborhood back that lost history, really giving people something to be proud about the neighborhood, and then also celebrating and supporting the neighborhood through the weekly events that we do. And we do incredibly diverse programming, so really inviting every single community in the neighborhood in for a different event.
Well, I was about to ask what you have plans for the future, but it looks as though diversity is a big part.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have another event with the Compton's Cafeteria series. There's also going to be events at the GLBT Museum, and at the Roxy there's going to be a screening of The Screaming Queens on August 18th. So we have Vanguard Revisited is a paper that was kind of like a zine that was produced in the 60s by some of the homeless queer runaways, kind of came together and made this organization called the Vanguard, and they created a homemade magazine. And then so a few years ago, Joey Plaster and Megan Rotter, I believe, made the Vanguard Revisited, and kind of brought back some of the people that were originally involved in it and got some new stories, and we're going to have a release party for that in September.
Terrific. Well, we certainly look forward to all of these events happening, and we're very proud to know that you're including the so inclusive of the LGBT community in this celebration. We thank you for putting this all together.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got all of our events are on our website and on our Facebook, and we've got event schedules if you ever want to come in and pick one up.
Yes, indeed.
Some
So-
events are free, some events are $5, some events are $10, but we've got, there's really something in there for everybody.
Yes, it sounds like it's very reasonable as well. So having said that about the website, would you be so kind as to tell our viewers just what that website?
Yeah, it's the tenderloinmuseum.org.
Very good. So, viewers, you can go there and learn more about the Tenderloin Museum. Again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Bob the Drag Queen, and you're watching Outlook Video.
Mr. Potter, you've been telling us about your being a native San Franciscan. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, born in 1927, June 6th, in 1927, and born and raised in the city.
Well, not only in the city, but also in this particular area of Tenderloin,
it was
yes?
a little hospital for illegitimate children on Van Ness Avenue, and I was born in that.
I see. Okay. But you're familiar and know this area.
Very familiar, because I run around the city, and I did arrive here the next day after that 1966 riot and saw all of it, and met all of them when they were much older.
Yes.
So I was happy to hear this tonight. So
I was about to ask what your role was in the Compton
I was just
riots.
a witness to it, but I got to and saw and certainly believed in them.
Okay.
And then several years later, there was a film done, and there is a plaque, I think it's still at Taylor and Turk, and I was in on that ceremony.
Oh, excellent.
So,
okay. Well, then, do you consider yourself an activist?
yes, in my gay life, came out into my gay life in 1953 with Jose Soraya, who first ran for city.
A supervisor?
Yes,
perhaps, at that
he
time?
was the first, and he
Okay.
did get 5,000 plus votes,
Excellent.
and he set the precedent for a Harvey Milk.
Oh, very
Without him, we wouldn't be here. And I was friendly with him until the day he died. I was at his 90th birthday and then his funeral up at Grace. So I followed Jose all those years. So I'm very active, and when I can, I let people know the days that we got here.
What do you think are the most important changes that you've seen in the LGBT community?
Well, in the 53s, they could arrest us if they caught us. Kids could lose their jobs if it was published in the paper. Many times would be coming home from an all night, and I'd be walking home. It'd be 2 in the morning. A policeman would pick me up, bring me to the old Justice Building on Kearney Street, take me in, question me. I was always working. I could tell them that, money in my pocket. So, because they did want to get me to bag charge, and I knew that. But they wouldn't let me go home. They'd keep me at 8 o'clock in the morning or so, and each police would take his turn throughout that evening and night to harass me.
Oh, my goodness.
And so that's how it was there.
Yes, and that harassment indeed was the one too many harassments which started that Compton
Yes.
riots, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And I always talk of Stonewall, and this riot gets lost in history, so I'm glad it's being brought out. And we don't know the actual date. It's always in August '66, and I don't remember the date either, because I got here the next day and saw it all,
Yes.
and met them all.
Okay. Oh, very
And
good.
years later, there was the ceremony for it, and that's where the bronze plaque into Taylor Church is.
All right,
And
we'll
I
have to
kn-
take a look at that.
Yes, I hope it's still there. They don't maintain it. It's rather hard. It's getting dusty and dirty. Because I would get a broom and clean it myself yet.
Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of the history
Good.
and of your life with us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it a great deal.
Thank you very much. I'm very flattered. Thank you all. And thank you very much, Roberta.
Okay.